Back with us are Jennifer and Ryan Walter, marriage and leadership experts. I realize we're talking about marriage. A successful, loving marriage simply cannot happen without Jesus at the center, and I know that personally as the foundation. But we're kidding ourselves if we don't also look at the breakup of marriage and the destruction of divorce. So what are your thoughts on this? I know for me and my husband, we've always said divorce is not something that we can even say. That's just out of the question. It's never on the table. So what are your thoughts on this?
What would you say, Jen?
Well, I don't think you're wrong. I think we want to focus always on healing, God healing our marriage, making it better. That being said, we've had many couples that are a blended family, remarried couples. God can do anything with anything. So would you say, right?
Yeah. I maybe too, Julie, point us to Matthew 20, when we look at servant leadership in the context and the construct of marriage. So Jesus didn't say be an authority. Jesus didn't say, move people on. He said serve. And so I think if we can get back to basics and we can, sort of hold Christ in front of our marriage and say, okay, take a deep breath here. It's not what I'm getting out of my marriage at this point. Sometimes you have to pause and say, what energy am I bringing into my marriage? And hopefully that has a healing piece.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful. And obviously, I totally believe that God can do anything, and it's so wonderful that there are so many marriages that are mended, and blended marriages, and the fact that sometimes we walk into traps with our words, and that's where I'm coming from. When like if we come with the words of, oh, I'm just flippantly saying something and I wish I could take it back, that the lightness of that and the importance of our words in marriage. So going on for that, I want to say, what does divorce do to children then? When we talk about, we're talking with our mate and words in front of children, and then we end up in divorce, how does that affect them?
I'm going to jump in on this one. We don't have experience in that area. We have many friends that have that experience, but I think there's a principle, whether it's the kiddos or the next person in people's lives, is we talk a lot about emotional permission. And what we found is that if we can give each other emotional permission, sort of go from head to heart, right? Sort of give that sense of, hey, listen, it's okay to talk about these things and make it explicit. I think sometimes leadership is taking the implicit, the things that are under the rug, and making them explicit, holding them up and communicating them so that whether it's a kiddo going through that situation or, somebody else, we have clarity around what the boundaries are, and it's emotional.
Right. What are some tips for people who may be going through difficult times, like for marriages that don't have God at its core?
Well, that's more of a struggle, of course, because of the power of God and because He invented marriage. But still, the same principles hold true. The big one is to get help. To not try to. I think many couples that didn't try to get help in divorce would regret that later, because we're grandparents now. So we have 5 children and 5 grandchildren.
Oh, wow!
And if pushing through that time, that difficult time, and then having the opportunity to grandparent together is something not to be taken lightly. And so to get help, to find good Christian counseling, and there's tons of it out there, is a great idea.
I'll give you a quick snap too. Regain your friendship.
Good one.
Right? Become best friends again. Why did you get married? You started with friendship, and go back to that.
That's great. I have to bring Mike back on the ice.
Well, that was a pretty good line, Julie, for somebody who doesn't skate. And let's talk for a moment. You talk about being teammates, and marriage really is a team event. You got to work together. Why don't you give us 2 of your best suggestions for our viewers today before we wrap up our conversation?
I'll jump in. In 1986, our Montreal Canadian team that won the cup in May was really struggling in February. And if you think about the things that we put in place, it's probably not unlike marriage, right? First of all, we had a big meeting. We had to get together. We had to get it on the table. Why were we upset at each other? And then we had to focus on the right things. And I think that's a powerful piece. Jenny has got lots of things with me. I make a lot of mistakes that she can focus on, but she chooses not to focus on those. And I think that's a key component is, what do we see our future? What do we want to be in the future as we move towards Christ?
Oh, that is awesome.
What would you say, Jen? What would be your best tip to leave?
Just to add on to that is finding a time, carving out a time that's just for the two of you. And through when Ryan was playing for the Canadians, we had 4 of our 5 children then. And the only time we could find that could be just us before the kids woke up or when he wasn't playing hockey was early in the morning. And so we bought an automatic coffee maker and we made our coffee every night and set the timer. We had to put it in our bedroom so the kids wouldn't hear us tiptoeing by their rooms. And we made that time for just each other and God, just our Bibles, just our whatever had to be said, just checking in. And that was every day. And we still do that every day. We have coffee in bed every morning and carve out a time.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for being so open with us today. It's been wonderful to have you both on the show, Jennifer and Ryan. Thank you guys for giving us your time and contributing to our 2-part marriage special. If you'd like to find out more about Jennifer and Ryan's marriage and leadership programs, go to ryanwalter.com. Up next, Mike digs deep into the Word.